This is the 22nd season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where, believe it or not, we're going to talk about bass fishing. We've had a good week, had a really good week. It was good catching up with Dave Lefebvre on Monday, Cliff Pace yesterday, and then another legendary angler today, $1 Million Club. Actually, I have an article pulled up here that describes today's guest as a great American sports hero. So, I mean, without further ado, we'll just bring a bid right off the hopper. The one and only David Walker, the great sports hero, David Walker. How are you?
Oh, doing good. Doing good. What article is that?
That would be the. We'll get to this. I've got a bunch of stuff from the course of your career that I want to unpack.
Okay.
That, like, we've had you on BTL, but typically it's like over type of stuff. So like now I like the fact, and I take advantage of this. Like I did this with Lefebvre. I like to ask all the old FLW questions that you couldn't ask while it was going on, that now like you have no reason not to answer. And then we'll get into the current stuff. This was from a June 28th, 1999 article in the individual calling you a great sports hero is Jim Murphy. Does that name ring a bell at all?
Jim Murphy. Yes and no.
He was the Wheaties marketing manager back then.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, because that was the second year for Wheaties to be involved in FLW. Because so I was on the Wheaties box that year. So
the actual Wheaties box, and then you also graced the frosted Wheaties box too, right?
Yes, there's actually three. There's three.
I didn't know there were three.
Yeah, there's three. And so, matter of fact, I have all three of them right here. There's a crispy Wheaties and raisins. There's the Wheaties and a frosted Wheaties.
For the extra angler in your life.
Yeah. And you know, and so then the next year Kellogg's came on, and as you know, Kellogg's got on there, and they were around for years and years.
Yeah.
And so the Kellogg's wanted to kick off their introduction to the league early of that next season, so the 2000 season. So we were in Florida in January. We always started down there to Okeechobee, and they want to know if I would do a photo shoot with them as well, kind of an introduction thing. And so I ended up being on three more cereal boxes, because we did a photo shoot down there where I was running the boat, the new Kellogg's wrap boat, yeah, and showing that. And I say wrap, then they weren't wrapped. Those boats were built in those colors.
And then stickers?
And then they would just put one big decal on there.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes. Like the old Fuji boats, the Fuji film boats.
That's why they're so vibrant, because that's actual gel coat.
That is the actual gel coat. There was no wraps. The wraps came about right after that, because, reselling the boats that are those colors was a chore. And so they ended up, I'm going to say that it was because they went to NASCAR. And so like the first wraps were coming out of North Carolina. And I believe that's where, Irwin Jacobs there and his group had found these NASCAR people, and they started doing these wraps. And then it just snowballed from there. Next thing you know, it's wraps are just everywhere and on everything. But I remember when that first came out, there wasn't a wrap. There was one big sticker on there, and like it had the number, like 01 or things like that on there as well. So
collector's items. I wonder. I bet you can still find those around somewhere. I mean, that'd have been 90s, so we're talking 25 years. But I mean, I bet you could still find. Like, I would feel like, the resale value would have to be Ronald McDonald and Iowa State fans. That would probably be about the extent of the resale value of like a yellow, green, and red wrap.
Correct. And they did it. I know it was one season. I want to say it was 2 seasons at least where they were actually building the boats in those colors.
You didn't have to resell that, right? Like, you just got to run it for the year, and then that was their responsibility.
Well, for the most part, yeah.
Okay.
For the most part.
I said that would have been a nightmare if they were like, "Hey, David, here's the memo deal. Have fun with this clown show."
Yeah. Fortunately for me, I was like with Stanley Tools at the time, and my first boat with them was basically black and gold, and they had like an orange pinstripe on it, but it was pretty tame compared to the other guys. Yeah.
Did you get like paid to be on the cereal boxes? Like, was there a cash bonus with that, or was it just here's your team deal, and then all of a sudden you're on the Wheaties boxes and they're like, "Oh, this is cool," and it's just like an ego boost, and maybe a couple of people knew who you were from that? Like, there wasn't like a
no, you didn't
windfall.
Get any, no, you didn't get anything. So you didn't get anything directly from that, right? But you did in the sense that 25, 26 years ago, social media was basically non-existent, right?
Yeah.
And so when you, I know it sounds crazy, but it is sort of a new thing that's come about. And so when you were, anytime that you had the opportunity to be promoted, that was what you did, because that was your only venue. Like if the magazine wasn't posting your picture in it or something along those lines, you were just waiting for that opportunity to get promoted in some way. And usually it was through newspapers and magazines, things like that. So, but to be on a national scale like that, and it was funny because it came very close to being on the David Letterman show right after that, because the person that was one of the producers on the show had some ties with Irwin and the family there. And so that's when Denny Brower was on Letterman. Yeah. And so the next year it was like it was going to happen, but something happened with that producer and the show or something like that. So the deal just sort of fell through. And then when it went on to Kellogg's, then it just kind of changed its path. But it was, it was one of those things that was like, they were like, telling me, you better get ready, you're going to have to go to New York. And, I talked to Denny about it and what his experience was like there and all. And so it was, it was an exciting times for sure.
Does that seem like yesterday, or does that seem like a quarter century ago?
It seems like a very long time ago.
Does it?
It really does. It really does. There's a lot of those things that are like, you do think about that. It's like, it was that long ago. But that for me was one of those times where, I remember so much of that season because it was very, basically a pivotal time in my life, not just in the fishing, but what transpired in there in about a year's time was something that I'd never forget.
That's interesting. I'm pulling up some of the old photos. You had a lot of good logos. I love those logos. And some of them, then they would mix in with the one day logos too. Like you were never a, there's like, were you Lay's for a year, or did they just stick you in the potato chip jersey for one derby?
That was just for one derby.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was just for one derby because, but I was with Timex there the first year. The first start of the teams, I was with Timex.
The watch.
The watches.
I didn't even know
Timex.
they had a Timex team.
Yes. Well, the team was like me, and that's about it because it was early. And so the teams expanded from there. And then I ended up being with Stanley Tools for quite a few years. And, and that was a great experience as well. And then with BF Goodrich. And so I did the BF Goodrich team for a long time, and then ended up doing the BP, the British Petroleum, and did that team for a long time, many years. And those experiences were great because I was working with, global companies, and you work with them closely. And, I went to Walmart meetings. They have their Saturday meetings that are so famous. I've been to a couple of those. And at the time, Lee Scott was the CEO of Walmart.
Okay.
And he knew who I was. And
like the CEO of Walmart.
The CEO of Walmart would, if he seen me like at one of those events or when I went to a couple of those meetings, it wasn't like he'd run over, we'd chit chat, but it was always something that he'd like, hey, David, how you doing? Good seeing you again, and handshake and all. And it was that. And then you're working with these big companies, and you're working with them, closely, like with their marketing people. And it was such a different time because, it was in person and you'd do on the phone calls, but, you would travel. And I was going to Bentonville quite often, especially with the Stanley Tools. Because there for a while, they were going to get into the tackle box business because they were already built toolboxes.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And so they wanted to get tackle boxes. And so I was helping them design tackle boxes. And then I was there in the room when we met with the Walmart buyers and presented our layout of tackle boxes to them. And I learned a lot from that. And then, dealing with, and then working with BF Goodrich was great because I went to quite a few of their factories, and they wanted you to know the product. And so they'd show me how they built it, and they'd show me all the things that are about it. And I learned so much about those tires and things that, later on were very valuable. And then, like with BP, I did quite a bit of media training with them because when you're, there's a global company. And so they would, they'd bring a few of us into and meet with their, to teach you to be media trained. And for the most part, it's, for us, it wasn't necessary. You were never really in that combative situation with people, with reporters, but they were teaching you that because that's what a lot of them, many had to deal with. And so, I learned so much with those big companies, and, and it was early on in my career too. So I really hadn't developed any habits per se yet. So I was learning, I was taking it all in, but it was the good old days, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah. So you didn't, you didn't grow up in a tournament fishing family. So this was kind of something that you started as a young adult. And then, so when all this is happening, I mean, you'd been tournament fishing, what, 10, 15 years max?
Right. So I was late to this because I didn't have anyone in my family that fished tournaments. We fished for the most part. My dad and I, we would fish some. He fished a few times a year. That was about it. I just loved it. I mean, I went a lot. My uncle, which was more like a grandfather to me than an uncle, he was a big time hunter. And he fished some too, but he never had a boat. And so it was always bank fishing, creek fishing, things like that. So he would show me how, we would go and creek fish and fish, wherever you could from the bank that was productive. But hunting was kind of the main thing. And so the fishing was something I just kind of did on my own. And the very first tournament I ever fished in my life, I was 20 years old. I want to say it's 20. It was either 19 or 20 because I was working at a factory because I graduated high school. Next day started at the factory. Same factory my dad was a foreman at, and it was up in Detroit, Michigan. And I started working there the next day after that. That's what you did. I mean, after school, then you went to work, and we worked 6 days a week, always. I would usually skip out on the 7 days because I wanted to go fishing. So guy at work there, I had a 14-foot aluminum boat that I had bought after I'd started working there. And I'd made my own live well in it. I'd basically cut the middle seat, the foam out of it, built a fiberglass tub there at work because I worked in a plastic shop. We did prototypes. So we built molds. We built them out all kinds of different things. We built metal ones made out of Kirkset. We built fiberglass ones. We built wax ones. You name it. We built it. And so I built my own little live well to fit into that.
That's impressive.
And had one of those recirculating pumps put down in the bottom of it. Draining it was an issue, though. I had to siphon it, so that wasn't much.
With a bucket.
And if you ever siphoned anything, you'll know that's just not a fun deal.
That's where you have to like get it started, and then you use gravity to suck the rest of it out, right?
Yes. Get it started, and then you run the hose over there. And if you ever siphon gas out of something, it'll teach you, how to be quick. But so anyway, the guy at work there, Bob Stokes was his name. He found this flyer, and he's like, "Hey, let's go do this." And when you work at a factory 6 days a week, you kind of look forward to anything. You know what I mean? Like it's like whatever. You have things you look forward to. And he had this flyer, and it was a little one-page deal. It was a bass fishing tournament for opening weekend, and it was in a little lake up mid-state of Michigan there. And so he knew I had a boat. He liked to fish. Let's go fishing. All right, let's do it. We just look forward to it. We go up there that morning with the tournament. I don't remember what day it was on. It was either Saturday or Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Like you're one day off.
Yeah, you're one day off. So you get up early. He meets me along the interstate. We drive on up there. 40 minutes, what have you. We get there. I got my 14-foot boat, and I'm pulling it with a car because I had a hitch on my car. I didn't have a pickup truck.
That's bold.
And so we get there, back then everybody had hitches on their cars. You know what I mean? Now it's like trucks are so common.
What kind of car are we talking about?
It was an Oldsmobile, an Olds Cutlass. Had a trailer hitch on it, pulling my 14-footer. And I had my Lowrance. I did have electronics because I had an Lowrance, and it was a little green box, right? And that was my depth finder, and so that flasher deal. But anyway, So we went up there. I got my
not installed in the boat. One where you just hang the deucer cord over the side of the boat, and then it just sits in the boat.
That's the one because it's portable. You carry it around. It runs on 9-volt batteries. I still got it. I still got it over here.
Nice. Does it have like the flaps where you open it up and then you look in and you see the flasher?
Yes, that's it.
We used to take one up to Canada when I was younger. My dad would have one of those, and he would like fashion a suction cup to put it to the side of the aluminum boat.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway,
that was high tech.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I had one of those, and I was fully equipped. And we get up there, and there's like little tents set up, and there's all these boats, and they're all like gel coat, and they got glitter on them, and they're like, so this is 1985.
So you're talking 18.5-foot Rangers with 150s then.
Yes.
White trolling motors. Most of the trolling motors were still white.
Champions, what you name it, what Stratus was probably pretty big then as well. But anyway,
a lot of the burgundies and browns and reds, greens, the dark hunter greens were big back then. Yeah.
And I'm like, this is so odd. But the thing that struck me was the size of the engines on all these boats. I just thought it was, oh my God, look at that.
And what were you working with on the 14-footer?
I had a 15.
15.
15, yep.
Okay.
15, just rip start, and if that thing would kick back, well, you'd jerk your arm out of socket. But I mean, I had
gas tank sitting right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right there. 6 gallons, ready to rock,
Okay.
And so I go over there and we pay our money, which was, I don't know, it was very little at the time, $30 or what have you. They want to know if you want to get in the side pot for the big fish too. Sure, whatever, we pony up our $5 there, get the boat launched, and they give us a little paper plate, got a number on it, they call your number, you take off. So, which was, so I had no idea. He had no idea what we were doing. I had no idea.
This was his first tournament too.
Yes, he had never fished a tournament either. And so we go up there, and so they call our number, and we just go whizzing across the lake. A lake he had never seen in his life. I have been there maybe once, no idea what to do. We just go. Let's go over there. These boats just start roaring past us, and because I'm going 15, 20 miles an hour at the most, and just ripping by us. And so we go. Stop somewhere randomly. I get my tackle boxes. You open it up, it's got 3 trays in it, and in it was basically some spinners, a couple top waters is the only thing, and a few rubber worms that have melted their way into the box. You can never get them out.
So you had a grandpa's tackle box at 20 years old.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was new to me, yes, because.
What were the top waters at the time? That would have to be what, a jitterbug?
No, I didn't have a jitterbug. That's more advanced technique. I had a Rapala.
Okay.
Just long.
The floating Rapala, like a G13.
Floating minnow, yes.
Gotcha.
Floating minnow, and that was what I bass fished with, and so I would take that, throw it over on top, pull it under, let it bob back up, and just watch it. Well, the weather was kind of bad, so it was like windy, and then it started raining. So I get my poncho out of the tackle box, which is in the little bag, and you snap that thing on, and he's got his on, and it's wind and rain. We fish hours. We catch nothing. We catch anything at all. He's ready to go. Let's go home. And I'm like, yeah, let's get out of here. So we back to the ramp, put it on the trailer, and he's like, I am never going to do this again. This is the worst experience. And I was so, I guess everything went wrong, right? The weather sucked, the fishing sucked, the boats were overwhelming, and these guys had so much tackle and so much that I was like, I actually want to find out more about this. And so I went and at the next fishing show, and there was a bass club there, and they were doing sign-ups, and I was like, I'm signing up for this and join this bass club. And so I did. So the next year I joined a bass club and started learning how to bass fish. And got.
Do you remember the name? What was the name of the bass club? They all have good names.
Oakland County Bass Masters.
Yeah.
Oakland County Bassmasters.
Did they call them the OCBs?
They are still in existence.
Really?
Yes. And because Oakland County is in Michigan up there. And so like that's Lake St. Clair and stuff. So like fast forward to the Angler of the Year that we were just speaking about, the last tournament up there was on Lake St. Clair in the FLW tour. So the last tournament, I had to, Roland Martin and Alton Jones were both, I think, just the next two places behind me in the points.
And you knew they were both going to be on the juice there.
Absolutely. And so I actually,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Well,
they're going to be on the juice up there.
I mean, this is my first year fishing, full time, and I've got to win Angler of the Year. I literally caught my biggest fish of that tournament, which was a 5-pounder up there, and it was a largemouth. I caught it in a canal that I had fished previously in the Oakland Bassmasters tournament trail some 14, 15 years earlier.
Oh, that's bad.
Where I went in and fished it in
something in your head said, I remember this canal. Let's go
well, I didn't know much, but I knew about that canal, and in year 99, Lake St. Clair was not the fishery that it is today. And I could catch smallmouths, but I didn't catch good ones. But I went in that canal after I caught a limit and caught that biggest fish on a jig, flipping a boat dock, and just like I had done years previous in the other thing. So it was
like those canals up past Anchor Bay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really,
yep.
In those maze of canals.
There was always so many largemouths in there that we would, like in those the club tournaments, we'd fish in those canals a lot, only because the canals were protected, right? And it's something you're a little more used to.
That's what I did the first time I went up there. I was like, let's see if we can get a canal bite, because that thing looks terrifying.
Yes, exactly right. I don't have a boat for that. I don't want to go out there. Even if the wind doesn't blow, the boats are going to just splash you to death. So yeah, you fished pretty close in a club tournament for the most part.
That's wild to think from that story you just said. If someone had told you, hey, in 12 years, you're going to be on the cover of a Wheaties box holding a fishing rod and reel. That's a hell of a life story, dude.
That's why I'm telling you, that's why that year, it seems like it was so long ago, but yet it was such a change for me, because I quit my factory job and signed up for all the tournaments in 98. So the fall of 98, I gave up my career at the factory. I was making $8.50 an hour. Okay. It had taken me since 83, 15 years to get
up to that. Probably had benefits.
But no, none of that. No.
Okay.
No, it's factory work.
But that was your only source of income. So this doesn't happen anymore. Like, you see all these guys come in and stuff. You don't have the I took the leap of faith stories anymore. It doesn't.
There's no risk. And
so you remember, would you remember the moment where you were like, oh my God, like I am turning in my resignation to fish?
Yes. And I was really anxious about it. In my support group, which is friends and family, none of them thought it was a good idea. Not one person said, you should really go for it.
Do you have like an intervention where you like walked into the living room and they're sitting around and they're like, David, we heard about what your life plan is?
It wasn't. It's just more eye rolling. Hell, I mean, it's just, to this day, most of them was wanting to know what I'm going to do when I grow up. You know what I mean? Just, I signed up for the tournaments. I signed up because back then, you fish the FLW and you fish the Bass, the invitationals, which got you into the top 150s. right? And so I signed up for the invitationals and the FLW tour because I'd already been fishing the FLW tour a few years. I started it in 96, but in
BFL.
96, I didn't fish the last tournament, which I would have won Angler of the Year in that year, but I didn't go to the last event because the entry fee was $1,200, and there was no way. I could not come up with $1,200. That was
holy cow. So I pulled this up. That's wild. So you missed out on an AOY because you didn't have $1,200 for the entry fee for the last tournament.
absolutely. I didn't have it. Mike Terry won the tournament, and that was the reason it was $1,200 because that was the very first FLW Tour $100,000 payday. They had it in a suitcase. The guy had it handcuffed to him, took it up on stage. Mike Terry won it. And Peter T ended up winning AOY that year. And Peter was like, well, he said, you just gave it to me. And, he had told me that afterwards because he's like, because then it was based on weight. It wasn't points.
Oh, it was still old school.
It
like
was
you could win a tournament with 15 pounds, but you would lose to a guy who had 60 pounds the next tournament.
Yes, that's right. And
that's how they used to do it. They
changed it after that season, but I had to only catch 5 pounds at Bugs Island Kerr when everything was, the lake was flooded and it was in the bushes, and it was basically the only thing. You just
gone and flipped and spinner baited and freaking smashed them.
Oh, I mean, I don't know how well I'd done in the event. I'd have done well. It was very much in my wheelhouse because back then we were more about, there were specialists, and I wasn't a specialist by any means, but it was the one thing I did a lot because it was my way of fishing lakes I didn't know. Because I would just fish shallow visible cover because it's easy to find that.
What? Wait, it was a $1,200 entry fee for these tournaments.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm pulling this up here. This didn't make sense. Now it does. So winning, like this one on Kentucky Lake that you finished fourth in, you finished fourth out of 150 guys, and your payout was $3,500.
Well, that was because those weren't that much. Those were only like, I'd just be guessing, but they were like less than $500. They were like $400, $350 entry fees back then.
For the original FLW tour in the first couple years.
Yes, they weren't that much. That last one, and then on the first year, because
they wanted
the
people in
original
there.
FLW tour was basically the renamed Golden Blend Tour. So
chewing tobacco.
Yes, because they had the Red Man tournaments.
Yeah, which is why they used to give the spittoons to the BFL winners.
That's right. That's why I got mine over there right now. And because you win the Red Man tournaments. And so I was fishing some Red Man tournaments. And I got invited to go to this national tournament by a guy. He said, you should go with him. It was a guy at another club. And let me back up. I'm just talking old stuff here. But anyway, so just to give you a little more of a timeline. All right. So I joined the Bass Club in Michigan, right? I'm in the Bass Club in Michigan. I fished in that club for 3 years.
Out of that, a 14-foot aluminum.
Out of the 14-foot aluminum for the first 2 years. Then I bought my first fiberglass boat.
On like what, a 20-year note?
Yes. It was used, and but it was bad. I just thought it was the coolest thing. It was a Cajun bass boat. I bought it from Jan's Sport Shop up in Goodrich, Michigan, which they're still a Ranger dealer to this day, as far as I know. but I bought it from Jan's, and there was a couple guys working there at the time. One of them was Art Ferguson, and the other guy was Pat Klepper. They were working at Jan's, which was just a few miles from my house, and that's where I ended up buying my boat from. And it was a Ricky Green fishing machine. It was this Cajun boat, had a 150 Evinrude XP on it, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Until I got it out on the lake and drove it, and it was the most scary thing ever. Because I was used to driving the 14-foot aluminum with 15 on it. I take this thing out, I go flying across the lake in it. I go to make a turn, it starts chine walking, it just scares me to death. At that moment, I was thinking, I don't know what I'm doing with this thing. Mine was blue and silver, but it was a Ricky Green fishing machine, Cajun bass boat. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And then, so I had that for a couple years, and then I ended up trading it in, and I bought a Nitro. And after that Nitro, so my Nitro was my first kind of new boat that I bought, and had that, and then I ended up getting a Ranger. But I fished in Michigan till 1990. So I fished there at that club. I ended up winning their Bass Angler of the Year deal, their club championship and all that. And you know, I did really good in that. I just caught on to it because I was just eat up with it. I just really liked it. And you know how it is. Like if you want to be good at something, if you like it a lot, the more you like it, usually the better you're going to do, because you're just, I don't know, you just have that motivation to get better regardless of.
You don't even realize you're getting better. It's just, you're doing what you, I just had this conversation. You're doing what you love, and no one's holding your feet to the fire to do it. And all of a sudden you become an expert at it because it's what you love to do.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll do anything to get back out there. And I was that way. It was one of those things, like, you know, because me and Bob fished that same event, that one event, totally different outcome, same experience, but
he never fished again.
Was he never fished another one. And I ended up just doing everything in my power to fish more and more of them. But, you know, it wasn't the story about, you know, I started fishing them, I started winning, doing well. It was not that way. It was, I started fishing them and just falling on the sword. But I had to learn. And so I learned a lot fishing in Michigan. And then I moved to Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky.
Was that two fish?
And no, so that's where my family was all from.
Okay.
My mom and dad had born and raised down there, and way back, most of the people from Kentucky and what have you would, in that area, North Carolina, the South, they would move north to go work in Michigan at the factories, the auto factories. That's where the money was. I mean, if you weren't a coal miner, you were going to go north, and then
make $8.50 an hour wasn't around Kentucky.
No, I don't know. But I mean, it was. I started at 5 and 10-cent increments. You know, made it all the way to $8.50. But anyway, I left Michigan, moved to Kentucky, started in another factory, and the first thing I needed to find out was where the local bass club was, because I put my boat in at a reservoir that was like 10,000 acres, which I now feel like is, you know, not that big of a, but at the time was gigantic. The lakes I was fishing, you could see across them, Lake Orion, those lakes in Michigan, they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the public ramp ones, you'd go up there and fish them, but honestly, they were not very big. You could see across them, you could fish the whole thing, and they're just basically bowls with the deep spot in the middle, and that's what you fished, was grass, and that
sand
was it.
Drops.
Yes, that's what you fished. I dropped my boat in on a lake that goes up and down, winter pool, summer pool. There are 30. I had to learn how to fish completely over again because I had no idea how to fish on those things. And like I said, I think that the advent of the internet and the amount of information that's available was not existent. You had to wait on a magazine article to come out and read it, and how long does it take you to go through the Bassmaster magazine and flip through Field and Streams and Outdoor Life to find one nugget in
Being
there.
fishermen when they did the bass episode.
Yes,
bass issue.
exactly. And they were always up north fishing those grass lakes. And so I had to learn how to fish on a reservoir.
Midwest Outdoors was another good one.
Yeah. Yeah. And, in the TV shows, I was, that's your source of information.
Wait, so you were learning that and watching Fishing with Roland Martin, and then just a couple years later in the Angler of the Year battle with Roland Martin, who you'd learn watching his TV shows.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, it was weird. So, but anyway, I started the club there in Kentucky, and my cousin was fishing at the time. He fished in a club, and he told me, he said, "You need to get in this club here." He said, "These guys they're terrible. You got a good chance of winning money all the time." He said, "None of them can fish a lick." And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, "I don't want to join that club." I said, "I'm going to join." I talked to this kid down here at the Honda shop, and his name's Eric Hart, and he's president of the Tri-County Bass Club. And he said, my cousin Kevin at the time, he said, "Tri-County Bass Club?" He said, "You don't want to fish that. That's a bunch of pros in that thing." He said, "Carl Dean's in there." He said, "Terry Disney, Rex Huff." He said, they all fish that. And I said, "Well, that's what I want to do." I said, "I want to get better. So I'm going to fish against the best ones out there." And so that's what I did. Unbeknownst to me, they had one of their members of the club there at the Tri-County Bass Club. Just a couple of years previous, they had told me about him, had won the Bassmasters Classic. And I was like, it was Paul Elias. So Paul Elias was in the Tri-County Bass Club in Corbin, Kentucky for quite a few years.
Wins the 1982 Classic, Nealon and Reelin.
Yes. And he was also in that same club. And
Blackbeard.
And there was another guy in there, Eddie Evans. He was fishing it. And so I fished the Tri-County Bass Club. We fished at night all the time, to the point where it was like I ended up quitting Tri-County Bass Club because I was like, I did well. I won quite a few tournaments, won their Angler of the Year deal and all the last year that I fished. And I felt like now it was time to push myself again. I just kept pushing myself to get better by throwing myself into situations that were not, I had no advantage. And that was the way I was learning. And I never forget it because Carl Dean was the member of the Tri-County Bass Club. And I told him, I said, "Hey, I'm not going to fish next season. I'm going to focus on the Red Man tournament trail." And I never forget it because Carl looks at me and says, "Red Man? You don't want to fish that. That's a bunch of pros fishing that thing." And I said, "Well, Carl, I heard the same thing about you guys a few years ago." So it was ironic that he had told me that same thing. And so I started fishing Red Man. And that's when Eddie there told me, he said, "Hey, I was fishing the Red Mans. I'd won one, qualified, won their Angler of the Year, and ended up winning it a couple years in a row." And Eddie was like, he said, "My brother works for Operation Bass." Eddie Evans, his brother is Charlie Evans. And so,
oh my gosh.
Yes. So Charlie Evans, brother, Eddie Evans. And so he said a buddy of mine lives up there near Lexington. He's going to fish the Golden Blend down at Okeechobee next year. He fishes them all, and he said, I want you to. There's Charlie right there.
That's Charlie Evans right there. Very young Charlie Evans. That was long before the Paw Patrol days.
That's right. That's right. Charlie was CEO and he did everything. He on stage, weighmaster. He did.
Hey, folks, welcome to the Walmart FLW tour. I'm Charlie Evans. We're going to weigh the fish in right here. He's got a 5 bass limit.
He wore every hat, right? And so Eddie said that Charlie's buddy is going to fish the Golden Blends and wants to know if you'll go with him. And I said, well, I'll go as a co-angler because and he said, well, that's what he needs. Somebody goes co-angler. And it was Bill Taylor. So
what?
So Bill Taylor and I've never met him before in my life. Bill was just working for Operation Bass. He had one of those big Operation Bass vans, which was before it was called the FLW, what have you. Before, this was when Mike Whitaker still owned the Redman, the Operation Bass. Mike Whitaker owned it, and Charlie worked for Mike, and so Bill Taylor worked for kind of with Charlie and was working. So he had this big white Operation Bass van, had a Ranger boat behind it, and I met him down at the interstate. Never met him before in my life, and we loaded up and we started heading south to Okeechobee to go fish the Golden Blend tournament. And this is like 94, I want to say, about 1994. And as you know, I mean, these names that I'm saying, this was like early on, and it's so funny how we kind of all grow into this big sport together at that time, because none of that existed. And then one quick thing. The first time I met Mike Whitaker was at that event. So Bill and I are rooming together, this shady hotel in Clewiston, and he's like, I got to swing by and get Boss Man. He said, then we'll go to the meeting registration. Okay. So we're sitting up front, and we pull up to this other hotel, and there's a guy standing out there, and he's got like a vest on, cowboy boots and stuff, which I thought was odd for some other fishermen, but whatever. Oh. And so we pull up, and Bill pulls up to the passenger side to him, and so he opens the door. So I reach and I lean my seat forward so he climb in behind me. And so he looks at me and he climbs in the back, sits back there, and so we ride over to the registration and afterwards, Bill started laughing. He hit me on the chest. He's laughing. He said, well, I can't believe you made Boss Man just get in the back. And I said, well, who is it? He said, he owns the whole thing. And then, so we're sitting there at the meeting. And so Mike gets up there on stage. Mike Ricker gets up there and they hand out the tobacco and stuff. And he's sitting up there with Bobby Bear. So Bobby Bear went to all these Golden Blend tournaments. He was at all those events, and he'd get up on stage and talk a little bit. And, he was just around just to be there. Mm-hmm. He had this big deal with Pinkerton Tobacco, which owned Redman, Golden Blend, all that stuff. So, and then, about a year or so later, Whitaker ended up selling that to Irwin Jacobs. And then that's when the whole FLW tour was born. Mm-hmm. But it was that next year basically started off as the exact same thing as what the Golden Blends were. But they were, so I started fishing them as a boater then. And that was the year that that last event, they were announcing, we're going to have $100,000 first place prize, cash money. And I mean, that was like unheard of. Like, they had mega bucks, Bass had some mega bucks, but that was a truck and a boat. There was no bucks involved. It was mega stuff, there was
the mega stuff tournament just doesn't have the same ring to it.
all the tournaments were things. Like you went to an invitational and won a boat. There's your boat. It was sitting right there in the parking lot for you to take ownership of. Right
Okay.
At the weigh-in.
Yeah, there were people guessing that was Ray Scott or Forrest Wood, but it was the rich tobacco owner. So let me ask you this then. So if you compare the Bassmaster and the FLW, then like you're in on FLW, you're there at the beginning, you almost win the Angler of the Year, you have it in 98, but then that's kind of right around the same time then where you jump in and start fishing the bass stuff. I'm curious what made you decide, hey, I want to get involved on the bass side just as heavily and not be like, I'm all in career on the FLW side?
Because there wasn't really a us against them as far as fishermen goes.
Okay.
There was a little bit of that, but not much. I'm sure the organizations were probably, one not excited about the other, but it wasn't to the extent that it was going to become. And then it was like, because I'm like, all right, if I'm going to be a pro fisherman,
you need to fish.
I've got to fish a lot of stuff. I can't fish a few events and be a pro fisherman. And so I just signed up for whatever major event I could sign up for. And I didn't have the money to do it. That was one of those things where I waited and waited for so long thinking, one of these days, if I did this or, I won that, then I would sign up. I didn't. And so that losing out on that Angler year, that first year, kind of taught me a lesson that, if you're gonna gamble, you better gamble it. Just, I should have, went in and fished that tournament. But like I said, it wasn't the smart thing to do money-wise. What I did was the smart thing to do money-wise. And it was also the things that most people around me were telling me I should do. Mm-hmm. And, I kind of went along with that. And I regret that. So at the time when I decided I'm all in, everybody's saying, no, that's just a bad idea. You need to do this. I did none of that. I signed up for all the events. I paid my deposits on the credit card because I had to win enough in the first event to pay the balance to fish the second event.
You basically martingaled your fishing career. If you're a gambler, it's where you.
I did not have the money to pay for that year.
So there were a number of times early on in David Walker's career where your career literally hinged on the next tournament.
Yes, that whole first season when I won Angler of the Year, I had to win money at the first one to pay for the next one because those entry fees had went up then. They were $1,350 something, I think, is what they were the first year. I don't think they were $1,500. They may be. I don't think they were, but they might have been. I don't think they were. I think they were over $1,000 though, which was, you paid your deposit and then like 10 days before or so you'd pay your balance. So
like when you top 10 Ross Barnett in 97 and got almost $16,000, like that was massive for you then. Cause you were like, my God, like we'll make it through the year now just on this one.
The hell, you could fish. If you could cover 10 grand, you were going to fish 2 tours the season.
Yeah.
You're dealing with how the cost of a boat back then was about if you were just a rough estimate on like a used one, it's about $1,000 a foot. 18-footer cost you 18 grand, 20-footer cost you 20 grand. If a new boat was, significantly more than that, you were in the upper 20s or so.
Yeah, now it's like $5.50 a foot.
Yeah. Gas was, $1 something. Your cost of living, just living, 100 grand then was substantial. Like, I mean, like buy the house, pay everything off. Like it was a huge payout. It really was the nerves that are involved in those top tens back then for the amount of money we're fishing for, because it meant a lot. There was a lot of money given out. And it was cash money. It wasn't things that were supposed to be this. I mean, it was all money. And so it was it was way different. Way different. That's for sure.
I don't think I realized this too, scrolling through. Like, you've only had $100,000 payday in your career. Like, you've only had one, like, I guess, major 6-figure win in your career. Just a lot of really solid finishes other than that too.
Well, and that had a lot to do with the way I started fishing. And I kind of realized that late in my career was like, you think about that. I had a lot of near misses. Like I had tournaments won that ended up just falling apart at the last minute. And those were so tough to take. I felt like I should have won the Classic twice.
New Orleans, one of them?
New Orleans was one of them. I lost the winning fish twice on the second day. I only weighed in 3 the second day. I had the winning fish on twice, and it come off on the mats both times and came off. Ended up losing to Kevin. Kevin won his first Classic then. But and then the year that when Yellis won, Aaron was second, but I was leading that thing on the final day, which was on a Sunday, because I was down the lake flipping the shore grass, and those guys were reliant on current that wasn't going to happen. And then all of a sudden, for an unusual time, the current started flowing on a Sunday, which was
that when he was catching them under the undercut with the current ripping down on flipping the bacon rind into the laydowns, and they were sitting right behind that was the Yellis one?
No, which one?
The Yellis one.
No, Yellis won it up below the dam.
Oh, okay.
And there's a pretty famous video of where he was fishing. That was a little deeper side, and there's a pontoon boat that literally runs like right over.
And he jacks one.
And he catches. But anyway, so back to I always had to make enough money at the one event to pay for the next event.
Affected your fishing style, how you fished. You always fished for.
I learned how to fish for checks because I absolutely had to. That was how I was able to get a career going and maintain it, was because if I wasn't I had nothing to fall back on.
What was the go-to? Like, what was the go-to 12-pound did you have a system figured out where you're like, this bait, this kind of pat? Like, I do a thing in the opens to finish 60th now. It's called BMR squared, Bridgers Marina Rip Rapid Ramps. I take a shaky head, I take a Nico rig, I take a chicken rig, and it doesn't guarantee, but it's one of those things, because I'm always fishing for points, that I've noticed. What I'm saying, like, what was your go-to system to put yourself in the best position for a check, knowing, hey, I may not compete with Denny, who I know is going to be flipping and may finish 150th, but may win it by 20 pounds.
Right. Yeah. Those guys would fish differently. And like Fritz at the time, he was very dominant too. And he would hero and zero, you know what I mean? Like he would spend so much practice just out offshore, just looking and looking and looking. I never felt like that was a luxury, to be honest with you. And I was like, dude, I have got to catch some fish. Like, my boat hit the water, daylight, first morning of practice. First thing crossed my mind is, I gotta find some fish quick. Like because I had to make money to continue doing it. And so what I learned early on was shallow visible cover was my friend, because I was going to lakes. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of back experience on reservoirs at all, or for that matter, just even natural lakes. I didn't have a very deep, a data bank to look back on that, when this happens and this happens. I was still early on, but I could take off just running up the lake and look for shallow visible cover. I spent a lot of time upriver, where I would look for places that were where things were condensed. You know what I mean? Go to the back end of a creek where in a short amount of time, I can fish the deep side, the shallow side, the laydowns, the dock, the what have you, and looking for isolated things. Like if the water was low, I had much better tournaments flipping shallow stuff on low water than I did high water, because I was looking for those isolated targets that I knew had a high percentage of having a fish under it, because it was the only one there. It was the only dock that had any depth on it. So it was a high percentage place. And so I spent a lot of time with two baits mainly. One was a small crankbait. Little crankbaits get you a lot of bites.
Remember what was your crankbait of choice back then?
Back then, so that was kind of
Bagley's, wasn't it?
That was no, yeah, Bagley's were good, but honestly, I preferred the plastics over the wood ones because they were easier to cast and they lasted longer. They were more durable. The little bandits, rebels, bombers, those little like 6A bombers, deep we are rebels, those little baits like that were great because I always had to keep moving because I was trying to fish as much as I possibly could, but just to increase my odds. Like I never wanted to stay around any place very long. Like unless they were biting, I'm leaving because I've got to catch some more fish. And then a flipping stick to really, once I found that target, and then the flipping stick would always be the thing that got me that bigger bite.
Jig or plastic?
Mostly jigs, because I had learned to fish a jig when I was in Michigan at the club tournaments, because the jig was great at getting bites and bigger bites, but it was like the first bait that I caught many bass on. So I had that confidence in it.
Yeah.
If I had, started with the plastic worm more, that probably would have been more of my go-to bait, but I had that confidence in it.
Round rubber chunk.
Oh yeah. No, well, then it was Uncle Josh. We all used pork frogs.
Straight pork.
Pork frogs. Oh, 100%. That was.
When was the last time you put a real pork chunk on the back of a jig in a derby? David Walker.
It's been a long time, and that's all we used on the back of our spinner baits too. Was a Uncle Josh.
Like at some point in your career, there was the last time that you sat down, fished out a can of Uncle Josh, and skewered a chunk on the back of a jig, and you did not know it at that time, but it was the last time that you would ever do that in your career. I'm
going to say it was probably, it had to be around in the late 90s there. I'm going to say like 97, 98 or so. Because, when Zoom started making the plastic chunks,
that was a big salty chunk.
That was a big deal, man, because Uncle Josh was great, but there was some pitfalls there that you just didn't realize. One is you would open up a jar. If you could get the jar open, many times those jars would just seal themselves shut. You're not getting them open. And then that was with the glass ones. Maybe you could use a pipe wrench to get them open, but then they switched to plastic ones. You would literally crush the plastic jar in your right hand, turning with the left hand, the lid. And that Uncle Josh was all over you, the boat.
Salty brine.
Yes. And if you didn't keep dipping it in the lake, it would dry out as you're riding around. And the biggest pitfall was you finally got a bite You're watching your line, it's swimming out there with it. You crack him, comes up, comes right off. You reel it in, and that little leg on your Uncle Josh is stuck right over the hook point on that jig. No way you're going to drive a jig through that pork rind. You're just not going to do it. You had the ultimate, hook keeper, the hook defender on your back of your hook at all times, which was, it could be so maddening. So when it came out with the plastic, and then you could get different colors, and yeah, it was a better deal.
So before we get too far past, you're talking about the classics. One of the things that I came up with, or that I found when I was getting ready for this, was that 2002 classic on Lay Lake, and the net incident on that. So like before 2002, so I got into this in 98 is when I fished my first Bass Master tournament as a club, and we still use nets then. We still use it at the club, but it was 2003 is when Bassmaster, and you may have, I've tried some, you may have talked about this on a previous show with someone. I'm not trying to, if you have or haven't, I don't know if you have recently, but
no, I'm shocked that you know this, but yes.
Okay. So the way the story goes is you have big bass of the tournament. The TV cameras are on you. You're trying to wrestle this giant in, and you end up in this weird tug of war where it just turns into a cluster, trying to net this fish on Lay Lake. You land the fish. It's big bass of the tournament. Jerry McInnes, who's running Bass at the time, looks at it and is like, yeah, that's not a good look. And as a result of that debacle, basically decides no nets.
No.
Is that, no?
No. You're right and you're wrong. So
okay.
So here it is. All that you said is true, but we didn't have nets. We didn't have them. It was a big deal that we weren't having them.
Okay.
Right? And so I'd love to see a clip of that. I haven't seen it in so long, but it's got to be in the YouTube, vapor somewhere.
Oh, don't challenge me.
There you go. Find that. But I have to go around to the back of the boat because this fish was pretty out of context. Like we're flipping Lay Lake, you're catching decent sized fish. Dude, this is a big one. And it's a big deal. It's a classic. It's everything. And the camera boat is behind me. And I'm back around the backside of that boat. And I'm trying to get my hand on it. And I'll never forget it because after the day was Jerry and Mike was there, and Jerry said to me, he said, that right there is why we will never have nets in the Bassmaster Trail. That is the most compelling, best part of that whole thing was he going to land it? Is he not going to land it? Could he land? That he thought that was what made that landing of the fish so compelling and such a big deal that he's like, as long as I have say so, he said, we are not going to have nets because of that.
And what day of the classic was that?
I don't know, first, second, maybe.
Oh, okay. I don't know if this is absolutely it, but we might have found it.
No way. No. That's
not it?
That one's not it. I think that's the day. That's
here it is.
Highlight.
Is this it?
That's a whole highlight deal, yeah.
Is this it?
Let me see. But that's not the fish, no.
I don't know. This thing looks pretty big, David.
It might be.
I mean, you got the crouch on like it's...
Yeah, that's right.
You're in the back of the boat now. Here it comes.
Here we go.
Old school, bury the rod. Look at the size of that reel. Yeah, this has to be it.
Yes. What?
Oh, your heart's got to be pounding.
Yes. Like, I'm just trying to cash a check. And this is going on here. And I'm like, oh, come here, fish. Come here, fish. Oh.
Is that it? That's not it. That's not a 6-pounder.
That's not it. That's not it.
Okay. Well, that's the same one. Same tournament.
But it's the same. Yeah. No, you're going to find it then. If you're on that.
I'm close.
You're close. That's right. Because there should be some of that water willow.
Okay. We're going to try to find it here. This isn't it. I don't think. Oh, you are fired up in this clip. Is it a largemouth?
Yes.
Okay, that's the key. Now I'm obsessed with finding it. If we don't find it, we'll put it in the.
That's so funny.
We'll put it in the show.
Well, yeah, you're good at this deal here.
Well, I mean, it's kind of what I do. Oh, maybe we found it. Maybe we found it. Here, let's see. There we go.
See.
God, I'll tell you what. It's so sad, the A-Mart deal, man. Like I do 200 shows a year, and I bet A-Mart pops up in 50 shows a year still, David.
A-Mart, Aaron and I were friends, and he was probably the best natural-born fisherman I think I've met. Like it was so good, and the things he would say, it was just so random because things that pop in his head, he would just say them out loud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was just the way Aaron was. But he was such a natural at finding those fish, like the fish that people are now chasing around on forward-facing sonar. Aaron absolutely knew that they were out there and they were doing that stuff because he was always doing these he would fish for suspended fish. I would never fish for suspended fish. Aaron would.
On the bank on a log.
Yes. I mean, it has to be like if he's not near the target, you're probably not going to catch that fish. But Aaron would fish for those fish that were just out in the open, which were by far the hardest fish to catch. But he could catch so many fish, but he was always so good. And you know what I think is so ironic about it is because Aaron. Matter of fact, the first time I ever tied a drop shot, ever, Aaron showed me how to do it. We were at Lake Eufaula down in Alabama. And I said, Aaron, what is this drop shot deal? He said, oh, bro, I got it. So he showed me how to tie it, how to rig it up. And I'm like, and that's it. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking, because I'm thinking in my head, like maybe it's something I could use, shallow and stuff. But, back then it was all about, the drop shot was for basically a vertical presentation. You know what I mean? That was it. Yeah. But yeah, he was so known for the drop shot, but he never wanted to be that known for it. He loved like flipping and pitching and power fishing, but he always seemed like he just had to end up going to the drop shot in order to do well. And,
Arkansas River, Florida, pad stems, didn't matter where. Anyway, so he pulls up, if you're listening on iTunes, he pulls up right before the clip that I think I found in the vintage Team Crown Royal jerseys. If I remember, was Skeet, Aaron, Peter T, and maybe one other guy that I can't remember, but they had multiple. They had the white. Yeah, they had the white. They had the purple. I mean, that is the whole, like, in the BTL studio here, there's very, very few things that a Crown Royal jersey is top on the list of things that I would like in the BTL studio.
Yes, I agree. It was such a good, concept. And it was because, all the other teams were basically all run by, the organizations. Mm-hmm. And that one wasn't. And so that was what made that one so unique was, the Crown Royal team.
Does this look familiar?
This is it. There you go. That's
Does this look familiar?
Yes.
I'll tell you what, David, you got it looks a little bit like Swindle in your early days on the front deck. Has anyone ever told you that?
No.
Oh, man, you cracked that sucker.
Oh, how much fun is that?
Oh, you absolutely hammered that fish. This is Bassmaster Classic. You're in the mix and just jacked it.
It was supposed to be a keeper. And it was.
Okay, so this is the clip.
Yeah,
We're setting it up. This is the clip that made sure that there would never be nets in Bassmaster.
This is the one. Jerry McKinnis told me that.
Oh! I've never seen this clip.
I'm like, come here. I couldn't quite reach it. I didn't have enough line.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, one more time for Puster. Boom.
Yeah.
And that was Big Bass of the Classic.
I have not seen that clip. I don't know how many years it's been since I've seen that clip. Oh, I even forgot about that. That is, oh man, how much fun is that? I'm telling you, it was the good old days. I didn't even know it. Come here, come here. I was just in my head. My heart was in my throat. I couldn't breathe. I was so excited about that. And it was such a big deal.
I'll tell you what, that might be one of the most, I mean, we talk about like the best hook sets of all time and stuff. This right here might be one of the most underrated. I mean, that's pretty strong. What were you still in the Stren days back then? Like, are we flipping Stren mono?
Oh yeah, that's monofilament.
Like 100%. Blue Stren, 20-pound stretch mono.
Big game.
Oh, you're Berkeley big game at that point.
Game. Big game was what all the flippers use big game. That was
low vis green that came on the spool that was like coiled when you put it on.
Yes.
Came in the 500 yard.
Yep. That's the one. Coil memory, unbelievable memory. Yes.
Huh.
Yeah. That was back within the day. Yep, we did. But it's funny. I was using that G Loomis flipping stick then. I still use it today. Like it's still.
I noticed that Loomis has been with you for 26, 27 years, David.
Yeah. So is Lowrance Ranger. The companies, kind of the ones I started with, the ones that kind of gave me they saw some future in me. You know what I mean? I always liked that, being kind of loyal to them, because I felt like, they were there for me, before and not because of. And so I'd been with them for that long.
Okay, one more old school thing I want to bring up, then we'll fast forward 25 years to Kentucky Lake 2026.
Okay.
We'll go back to kind of where we started. Something that has stuck out to me is the hand placement on the front of the Wheaties box here for your photo shoot.
Yes.
Do you remember that photo shoot for it? And was there any blowback of you perhaps going, hey, that's not how we hold fishing rods?
Yes, I remember it well. I can tell you when it happened. So top 10 day at the FLW tour. We're at, this is you made the cut to make the top 10. So we're at Lake St. Clair. We're over there, if you make the cut, you got to come over and do a little meeting with Bill Taylor and everybody. And so we're sitting there at the picnic table. This is end of day 3 of the tournament. And, getting ready to start a meeting for the next day. Boats tied up to the dock there, because we did the weigh-in. Of course, hanging around to see what happened with the points and all that. And Bill comes over to me. He says, hey, I got somebody I want you to meet. And he's right here. And he said, we're going to exempt you. I'm going to exempt you from being at the meeting right now. He said, because you got to go with them. And I'm like, where are we going? They had the photo shoot set up at a hotel room that was a few miles from where the weigh-in was. So I literally got up off of the picnic table with my jersey and stuff on and loaded up my boat and followed them to the hotel room that afternoon. The next morning I had to get up and fish the top 10 day, but that's when that photo was taken.
In a hotel room. After
in a
you fished
hotel
all day.
room, in a hotel room at the end of the third day before the fourth day, that's when that photo is taken. And the rod and reel was just a random rod and reel because I wanted
It's
to
an Abu
use
Garcia 5600 round reel there,
well,
David.
I wanted to use mine, but there was no sponsor type stuff involved in it. It
Like
was
there's no line coming out of the reel either.
right. It was just in a hotel room, and the handle is on the right side. I use left hand retrieves, so holding it was like, I mean, you're lucky I wasn't holding it upside down, reeling it backwards.
Okay, I always noticed that. And I was like, as an angler, I was like, I know there has to be a story behind that because you wouldn't be on the cover of Wheaties holding the rod and reel like that of your own volition.
No. And we were in there, just going to be a few. We were in there for hours and took so many different photos, like the photo on the back of the box and the side and all that as well. Different ones overall. We took all those then, different shirts. God, I bet I had 6 different shirts on. They were all that, that Ranger, because back then all the shirts were embroidered. They were none of that. We didn't have the jersey like silkscreen stuff.
That's when I started when I was 14 or 15, and I had the black and red Ranger one that had kind of the mesh line that went through it a little bit. Do you remember that one that was kind of stiff? And I remember I wore it in the back of the boat as a 15-year-old in a club tournament because I had bought a 1978 Ranger with woodworking money when I was 14, and my dad put a hitch on the back of our minivan so we could get it to the boat. So I was a proud Ranger owner. So I was wearing the jersey, but I made a critical mistake. I did not have an undershirt on.
Oh,
and both of my nipples, by the time that tournament day was over, David, both of my nipples were bleeding because all it was embroidery and mesh rubbing against it as I made casts throughout the day, and I only wore that jersey one time.
Yes, I feel your pain. Some of the early things that we were doing to get the footage, you have not lived until you fished a day with the hat cam. That is one of the, you remember the hat camera when they did the hat
Yes,
camera?
that's when they had the big boom. I just talked about this with Lefebvre. They had the big boom cameras and they put a 75-pound mic pack, battery pack around your waist. And then there would be a boat that would go right next to you as you tried to fish for $100,000 with this big boom thing going over with a 50-pound pack on and a hat cam. And they had a net cam.
And the hat cam, and sitting in the seat was painful because you were sitting, all that was behind you, those battery packs and what have you. And then the wire, because it's hardwired, it's wired up through your shirt. They literally, you'd have to give them your hat the night before, and they would cut a hole in the hat to run the wire through and mount the camera onto it. And then when you go to put it on, you can imagine what. And I'm not talking about a little wire. I'm talking like coax. Like this is a hardwired. And we didn't have drones. We had full-on helicopters, which is it. You'd be running down the lake in the morning, or where you got to where you're fishing at, and there is a helicopter. Like I'm talking like they would get some of those pilots were kind of cowboys, and they would get like within feet of you. Like you'd be running full speed and you'd actually see something, and it was like, it'd be Marty. It'd be hanging out of the side of the helicopter. And man, it was so fun. Like there was so much crazy things we were doing at the time, because it was all new, and they were trying to get, and you got to hand it to McInnes and a whole bunch there, because they wanted it to be like it had never been. You know what I mean? Like they wanted these crazy angles and footage from everywhere and everything. And they didn't have the technology for it, so we were suffering through some stuff for it. But at the time, it was like I did it. There was pushback from quite a few guys, but I just knew I had $8.50 an hour punch press waiting on me, and you know what? I'll wear the damn hat, Cam. I'm fine. I'm the only guy that left that shop that had all his fingers. So I'm just, I figure that's a win. So I'm out here trying to make something of myself that is not in the factory somewhere. And so I was up for whatever. We tried it all. The very first live event, I did that. Me and Randy Howell did that. The one B.A.S.S tried. We were on Tennessee River, and we did that very first live one there. And that was when it was like, they do a little bit of it. Now it's everywhere, constant, it's changed so much.
So I've had this show under my hat for the last 2 years. I haven't gotten everybody together. I'm going to tell you about it because I think I don't know if you remember it. It's an old FLW. Randy Howell, I believe, was there were a bunch of big names. I think Swindle was in the top 10 there. They weighed in a tent, and Bruce Buffer, like the Bruce Buffer, announced the top 10 where he got you, ladies and gentlemen, like came in like the boxing ring, like he did with the do you remember that?
Yes, I remember it well. I sure did.
Do you remember what tournament that was? I was trying to find it because I want to get all those guys together and do like a reunion show of that, because I mean, dude, that was like big. Like you look back on that now and you're like, holy cow. Like if you did that now, you would be like, oh, we've arrived at the big time, but that has already happened.
I'm trying to think if that
was it a Beaver Lake one? I want to say it was a Beaver Lake one because of the Walmart thing, and they always did it up big at Beaver, but I can't find it now.
I want to say it was, because it was one of the, I think it was one of the open events. The first time they had it, need to look those up. So they had two open events called the Chevy Open and the Walmart Open, where you'd pay $200,000 for first, $100,000 per second. Same entry fees. And it might have been the first one of those. I don't think it was the Millennium Tournament, which you'd think it might be, but the Millennium was earlier than those, quite a bit earlier. The M1 tournament, where they gave away the $1 million prize.
I just remember I remember watching that show. Lynn Dollar has uploaded all of these, and I think he's actually an Oklahoma guy, and I've got a little bead from last year to possibly have Lynn Dollar on BTL. A little bit of reclusive individual, I believe. But I'd love to hear the story of how he got a hold of all these old YouTube videos,
right.
That are on the show. But if I can find that. Anyway, I want to do that show with as many of those guys who were in the top 10 that Bruce Buffer introduced and what they remember about that show.
It's got to be. Or was it God, I don't know. I don't know, but I remember it, and I remember meeting him, and I want to say he did more than one of them. I think he might have did two.
It's cool, though, that you're talking all this time, and you guys are all still fishing.
I know, right? That's crazy. Yeah, we all there's so many of us that started around the same time that, like my first classic was in 2000. The very first classic I qualified for was 2000. It was in Chicago, and Woo Daves won it. And I want to say that that was also Edwin's first classic, Edwin Evers, Skeet Reese, first classic.
Wow.
And I mean, you could look at Brett Height.
Yeah.
First classic. You could look down that list. I think there'd be a good number of them that you'd be like, wow, no kidding. We're all kind of, we're all about the same jumping off point there. So, but And it was all new, and it was just growing like crazy. Like, I mean, it was just exploding. And so, like, honest to God, my timing couldn't have been better. I wished I'd have started sooner, but honestly, it probably worked out just fine.
Yeah. All right. So let's fast forward then. You do the Elite Series thing, you go to the BPT,
Yep.
change the format pretty dramatically there.
Yeah.
Now, I think your last Elite Series was 2018. You're not fishing any divisions. And then, boom, you decide to jump in the Open on Kentucky Lake.
Yes. Well, it's near the house now. I live in West Tennessee. I used to live in East Tennessee for years and years. And yeah, I don't know. I have fished so many of them. I fished, the Bass, the top 150s, the Bass Elites, the PAA, the FLW Tour, the Bass Pro Tour, and I've qualified for all the championships that you can. I mean, I even fished the Redfish Tour for a few years and made the championship in that. And as well, it was like I just always wanted to fish, and I love the tournament aspect. Not everybody does, but because there's a lot of fishermen out there that are good fishermen that just don't like tournaments, and I could see that because I think the turnover rate that we have, a lot of that had to do with back then had to do more with the lifestyle that you had to put up with in order to be competitive, always traveling. Fortunately for me, my wife and I, we got married in 2000, and we had kids. Lily was born in 2003 and Olivia was born in 2008, and so they grew up on the road. They grew up at the Classic. Lily was on stage. I actually weighed her in in Charlotte when Takahiro won the Classic there at that.
I knew it.
I carried Lily up on stage, and Fishburne was doing it, and he said, "Let's see what she weighs." And we stood her right up in the weigh tank there on stage. So I mean, these kids grew up with it, and it was so fun.
So just nostalgia. Like, what did Mike and Brett talk you into it? Like, was that always the plan from the beginning of the year, or was it like, hey, sign up for the Open, jump in the Open, David, come on, do it. We'll have a time.
Well, so when the Bass Pro Tour first started, that we were all traveling together, fishing the Bass Pro Tour. And then, Mike got out, and then Brett got out, and then I got kicked out. And then it was like, Brett was always like, come on, let's get the band back together. Cause we all camped, and we all had so much fun together, camping and what have you, and traveling together, and cooking. And I mean, all of us are quite the chefs, if you ask each one of us. But we all had our strong suits, and we would cook a lot and just kind of hang out together. It was it was fun, and they were wanting to get back together, and I was like, yeah, this would be a perfect time to go over there and fish the Open, and just get back to the old bagging up some. Yeah, there we are. That's us. Yep. Mike won the side pot, so he won the $100.
Yeah, he had a big day too.
Yep, we had the side. So Mike won the $100, but yeah, it was just good to get back to putting fish in a live well and taking them up on stage and going, and just doing that because, that's how it started. That was, what I did for so many years. And, the fishing had changed so much, it turned into, I don't know, I feel like a lot of times that the growing it, wanting it to be more of a TV deal, make it more of a fan experience. That was always kind of the, what was used as the reason, like, well, we need to get more people to watch it. How do we get more people to watch it? Well, we got to do this, or we got to do that. And so it, production became more and more in of an influence to the point that it became a production. And then, so going back to just fishing a tournament, was kind of fun.
I've stated this publicly. I'm fine with it. It's an unpopular opinion with some inside the industry, but we've kind of taken a really deep dive look back into the efforts. And I mean, we're talking the biggest multi-billion trillion dollar conglomerate, big names behind it. You're talking BP oil execs, all of this, like the live. This has been done before. And obviously I'm in the industry full time. You have done this full time. We would love to see this absolutely blow up into something that's massive, PGA Tour, NASCAR style and stuff. But there's a big part of me that also says, listen, this has been tried. This has been done. Appreciate the bubble that we live in and maximize it instead of jeopardizing it by trying to expand outside of what we know works. And I know that's a double-edged sword because there's a lot of things that we do now. You take the live, for example, you take all that. And if you had just stayed happy with what it was, it wouldn't. Progression is always a thing in this sport. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to that big expansive stuff, I'm of the belief that, hey, we have X number of people. We're bringing people in. There's people that are aging out or finding other interests and stuff like that. But let's take care of this community instead of compromising the people that truly love, enjoy it, care about it, to try to chase something that has already been chased and has never been caught.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think you make a good point, really, because it's, if you don't know the history, you're doomed to repeat it, right? And so I feel like so many times you hear ideas and you're like, well, I mean, we tried that one, that really didn't work, and that didn't work. And I think maybe probably what needs to be done is when we say grow the sport or we say things like that, we need to be more specific. And I think the sport is bigger now than it has been. There's so many people in it, young people, like with the high school and with the college mm-hmm. and with the number of trails, it just keeps expanding. And then now you've got, the influencers and you can do your own TV with YouTube now. And so it's like, I mean, it has grown. It's grown immensely. But I think maybe at the time we just wanted to put the lightning in a bottle, right? We wanted it to be a NASCAR track or a PGA event where it's, and I think our fanning the fire, we just kept spreading it. We increased it, but we didn't concentrate it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's spread throughout, and so I think that it's probably just not went in the direction that we really wanted it to be focused. And maybe that was for the good, actually, because when it's all in one, that means a smaller group can control it. And, as we can see in many examples in life, once there's some control over something that, mm-hmm. you may think you're going to be one of those that has part of that control, and you'll find out that you aren't. And so, we've done a lot over the years when it comes to like, the fishermen, because we were here just fishing and, we wanted to get people involved. So we wanted to get some, like I said, some media, right? It was before social media. This was the only way to get media was a TV show. And so we turned over a lot of it to production, and I think there was hits and misses with that, and on both sides, but I think if you see, you look back on all these, we talk about all these crazy things that has happened and how much it's changed. It hasn't been that long ago. I mean, it's in a 20-year span that we went from, hat cams to doing live podcasts. It's changed a lot in a short amount of time. It seems like a long time, but it really hasn't been. So where does it go next? I have no idea. But
what are you doing next? You just turned. Are you 60? Is that correct? I did not.
Yes.
I for some reason had you at like 50, and then when I started doing stuff for the show, I was like, wait a second, started doing the math. Like, are you gonna Rick Clum this thing for the next 20 years, or what?
No,
or what's your tournament fishing future look like?
Right. I don't know for sure. My plan was to fish. I was going to fish the NPFL.
Okay.
This year. That's what I kind of had in my head. And the biggest reason is because it's the only national tour I haven't fished. I fished all the other ones. You name them, I fished them. And so it was kind of one of those things where, well, you got to fish that one too, because you haven't fished any of those. And the concept of no forward facing sonar on there, which, I mean, honestly, my personal belief is I can argue both sides of that point. Mm-hmm. So I think one thing about that is I think more people need to be on the idea that just because you're not for something doesn't mean you're not against it. It's like you're either for or against. You can't be, both for whatever reason. People just don't believe that. But I think it's an unbelievable tool, and I enjoy using it quite a bit. I think in the tournament scheme of things, my one biggest pitfall about it is for the same reason that when the Alabama rig came out, the anglers, I was on the angler board at the time, we went to them and said, look, this has got to change, and this is why. The reason we didn't want it was because the tournaments were going to become predictable. They were going to be, we already know what's going to happen, and if it becomes that, it's going to become a little dull. We don't all want to just go
almost the same way for the net. When you hook one and you've got a net, you know that fish is coming in, and 9 times out of 10 is going into the net. Throw some unpredictability in there. Is he going to grab it? Is it going to thrash around? Are we going to get those crazy moments that we weren't expecting?
Right. And the conversations before the event that no longer are being held are like, well, the weather's coming. The water's supposed to go up. The water's supposed to go down. We've got a cold front. We've got.
Can you run to Barkley and flip bushes and throw a spinner bait and win this tournament?
There were so many questions. You think, are the fish offshore? Is it going to be one offshore? Is it going to be one shallow this year? And then so you'd start looking at the names that kind of went along with those in their wheelhouse. Is this going to be, is this Denny's turn to shine, or is this going to be, another Fritz event, or because they were specialists in it? And to me, I think that's the biggest part about it that I miss with the new technology is the unknown, if that makes sense. It's 100%. Become, I already know how they're going to win it. I just don't know who. And that's the only, the only question you have is, well, who's going to win it where the jig head minnow is, or now, the koiki little deals. But I mean, it's like, I think that's, to me, the biggest danger in it is when it becomes predictable. And, that one dimension thing is just not as much, It's not as interesting beforehand. It may be just as much fun to fish. It may be, but I think as a conversation, or the things that you do in practice, planning on that, thinking, all right, if this happens, I got to go do that, or this, I need this area gets trashed, I'm going to have to, that, all that is kind of not there. And
that's fair.
I miss that, but will that change too? I don't know, because that's one thing we can't also predict is, once something gets to this level, we don't know that is a static. Like, does the fish change? Do suddenly, they have to adapt to survive, right?
Oh yeah.
But how much better does it, how much harder do they get to catch? I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing you see going in the future is they're just going to get extremely difficult to catch when they're being caught all the time. We're going to teach them not to bite. That's what's going to happen. And I think that's probably the next dimension of it is just figuring out how, well, okay,
I think we're seeing that after the jig head minnow and the jerk bait. We're seeing the koiki.
Yeah.
There's got to be something after the koiki. There's got to be, there's always been something out after that. Like,
There's
what was the biggest, was there like a must have, this is the only thing you have to be throwing, it's the deal, like in the 90s and 2000s before the sluggo or the chatterbait? Was there ever a thing where like you were around and every single person had the same thing tied on heading out under the day?
No,
not every, but
there were standard things like a spinnerbait,
standard, but there wasn't like a newfangled thing before the chatterbait. Would you say the chatterbait was the first one where it was like
everybody had one?
I got to get me some of those.
Well, it would kind of come in little phases that typically wouldn't last that long.
Oh, because guys could keep it secret back then too. So if you had a bait, like you weren't going around the launch ramp going, "Hey, y'all, I'm competing against you. You're fishing for second if you don't have these," and tossing them on the front deck. So you're keeping that close to the vest.
100%, and that was some of the factors early on too when it came to putting a cameraman in your boat.
Yeah,
guys are like, I don't want everybody seeing what I'm doing. Or
you could say that with a drop shot, David Walker.
Yeah.
You could 100% say that with a drop shot.
Yeah. There was a lot of different strategies then. You know what I mean? Like where you fished at, how you got there, and what you're using, and you kept a lot of things.
Here it is. I would venture to say the first one, social media wise, that blew up, that wasn't kept a secret for a number of years before it got popular, was when Watson won the Open on a whopper plopper in 2015 on Table Rock Lake. That 2015, you had the YouTube was going, Instagram, Facebook, that type of stuff. Like, I know the Alabama rig blew up, but there was still in 2011 a couple year period where guys were trying to figure out, like, the hell do you do with this thing? That whopper plopper went from a musky bait that you maybe had seen that looked like a motorized dildo to I have to have this thing in my boat right now. And it was a year or two of every fish you bloop, bloop, bloop over it, blew up on it like I'd never seen a bait before, to relative, right, just maybe a tool that works every now and then. And I think that, in my opinion, was the first one that the social media and everything that we have kind of killed it almost as soon as it became the go-to.
Yeah. Because if you'd have had that same bait, 10 years previous.
Oh, you'd been the only guy.
You could have done some serious damage for a while, because we could have kept something like that under your hat, which they would do, and it was done many times.
Did you ever keep anything under your hat?
Well, I never had anything that was that darn good, but yeah, when it came to like a lot of little baits and stuff, colors, things like that, we'd do some custom things like that. Like, honest to God, I still think I had probably the sexy shad color. I had a friend of mine that was painting those for me, and it wasn't called that then. We called it Absolute. And so I had some homemade baits, and it was really that color. And, how it ended up getting put on every store shelf, I was just like, gosh, dang it. I wish that wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? But,
yeah. That was 2007 Grand Lake.
Yeah. When that color got out, because
Davey Height.
It was good. Like, for whatever reason, there was just times when you would just keep trying things. Hell, that's the only way you could learn it. You had to just try. You had to go try. You couldn't, unless somebody was crazy enough to tell you, go over here, which at the time you're competing against them. So that's kind of a long shot at best. And most of the time what they'd tell you is something that wasn't, it wasn't true, you'd end up figuring out halfway through the day. All right, well, he got me on that one. I'm not good.
And I think that even blew up mainly because Kevin was throwing it, Davey High was throwing it, Mark Zona was hosting and talking about that. They had the Strike King connection. That color had come up, and then it blew up through that TV show. And then they had the Chartreuse Sexy Shad. They actually have a variation that came out that is impossible to find, that in my opinion was the best one out of all. Do you have any idea where I'm going with this? It was a Strike King color. It was a Sexy Shad variant. It's called Sexy Sunrise.
Sexy Sun. No.
Dude, I had some Series 5 Sexy Sunrises back in the day. I guarded them with my life.
Isn't that funny?
Find that color.
It's just funny how colors could have been, it was that subtle that just a color could make that big a difference,
Had a pink hue to the back of it.
And Fritz was known for that, early on, like fading them with the, on the dashboard, to kind of take some of the edge off of the colors to make them a little more fade and make them better.
The original ones had way more pink. These ones don't have as much pink in it. They're like the original run Sexy Sunrise. So potentially we may see you on the MPFL next year.
Maybe so. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. This is the first year I've not fished a full-on circuit since 96.
You're still in Sevierville?
No, I'm in Huntington now. I'm in West Tennessee. I'm just south of Paris, Tennessee now.
Oh, so yeah, you're right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, well, you should join a bass club and fish and go back to the old school and just fish a regular local bass affiliated club tournament circuit.
I know.
That would be phenomenal, David.
I went and fished Sunday. My wife and I went and we fished a tournament there, a team tournament that my dealer here, C&O Marine, they put on this trail. It's a team trail. And she's like, we should go fish it. I'm like, are you serious? She's like, yeah, let's go do it. I said, all right. I said, no, it's going to be hot. It's going to be this. It's going to be tournament. I don't care. Let's go. Okay. So we got up at 3:30 in the morning, drove over there, ponied up our $100 and went out there and, fished hard. Didn't win, but it was just kind of fun to go back to that. And it was good because like there in the parking lot, I had a couple different people come up to me. One guy in particular came up to me and he said, hey, I know you probably don't remember this. He said, but I met you at this gas station. And he started telling me and it was back when I had the Stanley tools and the kids were still little. And my wife we were in the camper and the Suburban with the team boat behind it. And we were heading back. I think we were coming from a tournament somewhere, heading back to Sevierville at the time. And he was telling me all about it. And I was like, God, that's so funny. I said, I'm glad you shared that with me because it's just, over the years I've met so many people like that. And then for me to show up at that little team tournament this past weekend, 30 some boats in it, and him and his partner happened to be one of them in it, and getting to meet him again. It shows that our fishing business is growing, but it's a community, and we got a lot of good people in it, lots of them.
Their most recent post is 2023. There's a Tennessee Valley Bass Club. It's right there out of Paris. I think you join the local bass. I think you show up in one of those shirts. You put a bass patch right there.
Maybe I know. Get the old vest out.
Do they still do it? I wonder, where you have the co-anglers line up on one side and the boaters line up on the other, and you get the poker chips and everyone draws a number for their takeoff, and then the co-anglers draw the number, and then when your numbers match, that's who you're fishing with for the day.
I don't know.
That's how they used to do it in the old ABC Assumption Bass Club. There'd be like 6 co-anglers. I'd be there with like 6 rods and 4 tackle boxes with bloody nipples in my jersey, and there'd be like 16 50-year-old dudes staring across going, dear God, please don't let me draw Pangrak.
No, I don't want that guy. He's got way too much stuff. Way too much.
The fact that they let me fish with them underage too. like 14, 15, 16, unmedicated, just jumping in the boat with a guy who just worked at Firestone for 6 straight days, and then he has to put up with my ass in the back of the boat.
Chain smoking Pall Malls. Yeah.
There was one dude that I never wanted to do, nicest guy ever, but he always wore jeans that were one size too big, sat on a butt seat, and they always fell halfway down. So all day,
Plumber.
all I got to do was look at Plumber's crack.
Oh, Plumber. Yeah. Yeah. God,
then there'd be other guys who like you knew only through the Producto worm. So like if you drew them, you knew like no crankbaits, no spinner baits. Like you're just throwing a triple rattleback jig or a Picasso jig, just flipping behind them, and they're going to be 6 feet off the bank the whole day.
Well, you knew what it was in store for, didn't you? Regardless of conditions.
You'd usually have 2 or 3 guys quit a year over some off limits thing that some arbitrary marina that the tournament director put off limits. Because last year a guy, drove 20 miles down and won out of it. So then they'll show up that morning and he'll be like, oh, by the way, the marina is off limits. And then that guy would be like, I'm going to quit. And then they would go, I don't give a damn. Go ahead, quit. We'll still have the tournament.
That's why we ended up with Tuesday night tournaments turning into Wednesday night, Thursday night.
Yeah, I'll start my own trail.
Because they would get mad and quit Wednesday night and start a Thursday nighter and in that group, one of those guys would get mad and start a Monday nighter. Yeah. That's exactly how that spread.
Laundry basket with the thing that went around. Like it was a big deal in the club when we got the electronic scales.
Oh yeah, nobody trusted those things, No.
I caught a 9-pounder one time out of the back of the boat on a Bandit 200. Still big bass of the ABC Bass Club. I got a trophy right there for it. Still have it. And it was the second tournament of the year with the new digital scales, and everyone thought it was a 10. And they weighed my fish with the plastic thing still on the scales.
Oh,
like the protective thing. And then halfway through the weigh-in, they realized that the plastic was keeping the scales from going down because you're supposed to take the scale off, remove the plastic, but I'd already released my fish at that point. So we really don't know how much it weighed.
Oh my God.
It's a big controversy because the first time they weighed it weighed like 6 something. And the tournament director went, 6 pounds. Good job, Pangrak. And I was like, wait a second. And a couple of the guys were like, no, it's not a 6-pounder there. That's what the scales say. So no reweighs.
Yep, the new scales hanging off the back of the lower unit in the parking lot with the water dripping.
I'm not kidding. Look at this thing. Oh, good God. Look at this. Out of everything I've got in it, I still have this thing. Assumption Bass Club Big Bass 922.
The trophy weighs the same as the fish. I love it.
It's the most important trophy. I've carried it with me through about 9 apartments, 3 houses, 18 different moves. And
I love it. There's a whole thing when it comes to being recognized. You love it. I mean, I've got back here, so many trophies.
Do you have a spittoon?
And yeah.
Can you pull that out and then we'll wrap things up? This has been 2 straight hours commercial free. I appreciate it. I've never actually seen one of the old BFL spittoons that were given away. Oh, those are pretty.
Yeah. See, and I mean, it's
a legit spittoon.
Yep. That's it.
That would be a power move to just roll up now with a big chaw in using your BFL spittoon from the 90s and just be like, what's up, fellas?
How funny is that, right? Yeah, that's it. And then I've got in the garage when we moved and stuff, we was packing up all this stuff. I've got all those old bass plaques, back when they give out the plaques with the tournaments. I've got my old club trophies, plaques, and a couple of those gigantic ones like you've got as well there that I've got them all because when we moved here, I built like a big metal building deal that would house the truck and boat and everything, man cave style. And I've got all my deer heads in there, of course, that way none of that stuff's in the house. And then all those old club trophies, I've got them all. I've saved almost all those, and just the trophies over the years. And It's funny how much the stuff you accumulate like that are just like kind of got a memory tied to them. I've got a lot of old lures and stuff that old pictures back when we used to take the pictures. You know, you had to get them developed and see what you got. And I got a stack of them in there from a trip that we went with after the Classic in New Orleans. Citgo was a sponsor, right? And they took top 5. We went to Venezuela.
Oh, dang.
And so it was me and Kevin Van Dam and Gerald Swindle and Harold Allen and myself. And we went down there and we went peacock bass fishing. And so I took all these little cameras with me and was taking, I took picture after picture. And now I'm so glad that I did, because it's just, and it was actually filmed. It was filmed back with Wintercom was doing those.
Okay.
And I don't know whatever that show ever. I had no idea. I don't think I ever seen it, but
you guys made it back with Harold Allen in your group?
Oh my gosh, dude, there was Harold would stay up all night. So we were with, oh, nice.
That's a legit old school Harold Allen jersey that is going to go on the wall eventually.
I love it. I love it. Yes, Harold.
Tell me a Harold Allen. I don't know what your time frame is. We're 2 hours in. I told you this would last 40 minutes.
All right.
But I'm good for whatever. I just don't want to take your time. I don't know. But
I need to shut up. But anyway,
no. That's what I'm saying. Keep going, because I would love to hear a Harold Allen Venezuela story, because I know there's got to be one.
So we get invited to go, right? So you fly out of Miami to Caracas. Get a hotel that night because you fly, commercial airline, what have you. Pick us up at the hotel. We're at in downtown that night. We arrive at the airport at night, get taken to a hotel. The next morning, vans are waiting out for us. Get in the van, drive us up to a smaller airport where we get in this twin prop plane. We fly in it over the mountains to this other little, nothing airport, dirt landing strip deal. Get in some vans and buses, and we start driving. And it's dirt roads, and we drive. And I'm not kidding. Most of the day, we go across a ferry boat that is the most. There is homemade pontoon boats that are way better equipped than this thing was, across this pretty swift water. And we go all the way out to the Sunaruco River, and we were with some guys that are pretty high up. We went to their personal fish camp, ones that they own. One of them was president of Citgo at the time. The other guy was he was the interpreter and kind of main guy of all the production at Citgo. Really smart guy. And a couple other guys. One of them was American, Texas guy, just like you'd expect. He sold lots of equipment to them for what have you. This is their private fish camp. So we go to this fish camp. They are high target guys. So we have
high value assets.
We have they don't carry ID or cards with them or anything. That way they're not a kidnap target. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And even on the cover of a Wheaties box. So
we have about 40 or so, maybe more, of National Guardsmen are, and I'm talking about machine gun carrying Army guys, right? They are all with us in the fishing group. We get to the river. We're in these little aluminum boats zipping around with our guides. They are in a steel boat with a 50 cal mounted on both sides of it, running up and down the river while we fish, right? And so kind of a surreal experience. We actually used one of those phones that's in a suitcase. Those things exist. Little satellite dish on it to call home from. Like, that was what I called home from it. But anyway, I took lots of pictures. So So we're at this deal. It's at night. You hear them out there. All the soldiers are out. They're talking.
And they're there
rowdy,
just for
loud,
you guys, just to protect you guys.
They're there to protect our little group from whoever. They're federales.
Yes,
they're federales is who they are, right? One of them's like a general or something. Like he's got stars on his shirt, right? And the rest of them are and they all got machine guns, dude. They're all AK'd and the like. And they're out there, and where we sleep at is like not indoors, but it's like screened in tents. That makes sense. Like it's just screen for walls and then a tent top, and it's kind of bunkhouse style. So me and Kevin and Gerald and we're all in that bunkhouse. We're just hanging out and just whatever you do. I mean, it's just crazy, and you can hear all them soldiers and stuff just talking and roaring and laughing and stuff. And there's Harold in the group with all these federales and their general and stuff, just drinking out of handled liquor bottles, and they don't speak a lick of English, and he doesn't speak a lick of Spanish, and yet he stayed up with them every night to the point that when we left there that final day, Harold left there wearing the general's cap. Like when we walked into the airport, he had the guy had given it to him. They thought I never forget that. I was like, Harold, that is something else, man. He was, I was about half scared of everything, and he was right in there with them, stayed up with them, drinking all night, and had a souvenir to talk about. I imagine if you ever talk to him about it, ask him about that hat he got when we were at the Sunaruco River in Venezuela, which is the other side of the river was Colombia. We were in Venezuela. That was the other side was Colombia.
I put that up. Harold Allen, big part of the Bass Zone back in the day, did the wide open with Mark Jeffries and myself. I've spent hundreds of days on the water with Harold Allen, following you guys around back in the Elite Series days, taking pictures, doing the live updates, things like that. But if you don't know Harold, there's a visual of Harold. That is, I mean, he is every bit as cantankerous in person as he looks like in that photo. And he's in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Last I heard, he's still guiding. I don't know. I know he had like open heart surgery or stents or something, and then was back deer hunting a month later, told the doctor to screw it. And last I ran into him at Toledo Bend, he was buying 2 pounds of minnows and had a group of people in a pontoon boat that he was going out to drop minnows as a crappie guide on Toledo Bend. Said if he knew how much money he could have made guiding for crappie, he never would have bass fished. He's the type of guy, when you fish with him, had a true turn hook on a V&M pork pin with lead. And when you said, hey, Harold, this hook is rusty, do you have a new one? He would look at you and say, Matthew, just set the damn hook harder.
Yes, just jerk harder. You don't need
just jerk harder. We once did a one-on-one tournament against James Overstreet, the photographer, and we did it on Pickwick. And it was a bragging rights tournament after an Elite Series tournament. Well, they'd open up the gates and the whole thing was flooding. And Harold refused to get off the water and said he would rather return to a flooded truck than lose to James Overstreet. So when we came back, there was 2 foot of water in the parking lot. Everyone had pulled up, but because the one-on-one tournament that had nothing on the line other than bragging rights, Harold, we had to load his boat in the literal parking lot because he refused to quit in case Overstreet had come in with 5 bigger ones.
Yep. See, that's a tournament fisherman for you right there.
Everywhere we went, there would be a knock on the door because we stayed with him, and he would somehow, he was in the pipeline of moonshine. So unless we were up north, anywhere across the south that we went, someone would show up with 2 bottles of moonshine and just leave them at the door. And Harold said, been around a little, Matthew. I know a few people. Don't ask any more questions.
Yes. Yeah. So you know some Harold.
Oh, yeah. He once locked me out of the house in California because a wild turkey was attacking me, and he found it humorous.
That is funny.
Yeah.
That is funny.
All Harold Allen stuff.
Yep. Oh, that's so fun. Yeah.
I can't thank you enough, David Walker. This was great. I'm glad that our paths crossed. If you watch my recap video of Kentucky Lake, I have little interactions in between there. It's out on BTL, and I left that little clip in where I was like, holy cow, it's David Walker. I need to get you on BTL. And you said, give me a call. And I said, I'll give you a call after. So that's literally how this interview happened.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, it was good to see. I ran into Paul there at the tournament.
Yeah,
see Paul Elias and Browning. He called me up on his way there and talked to him, and then getting to go out and hang out with Height and McClellan again, and it was good to see some familiar faces like that. So 80% of the crowd there I did not know, but it was the ones that I did see. I was like, oh, yeah, it's good to see you. Charlie Hartley was there. Got to see Charlie.
He fishes everything still. I talk to Charlie like 4 or 5 times a week.
He's great. I mean, he is. I think he loves it more than anybody. Like he just absolutely loves it.
What people don't understand about Charlie is they're like, oh, he fishes every day. He just lets Signcom run itself, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he started as literally the kid who cleans the floors, worked his way up. He runs that now. He splits his time between Florida and Ohio, and he's on the water every day. But what you don't see is the fact that he's up at 3 a.m. on his computer, working until 7 or 8 a.m. to then go to the water, like still works full time, does it. He had that streak of like 2,000 something days where he caught a fish every single day. Whether it was just at the pond, Ohio, he works with the local youth clubs. He's got Hartley's Heroes or some of the anglers there. Yeah, good dude. Great for the sport. Have him on BTL like every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, you should. You should. Charlie, his enthusiasm is unwavering for sure.
Yep. And then Paul Elias, to see him fishing, like he doesn't get enough credit. You look at like monumental things in the sport, the Neil and Reel, the Alabama rig, the 132.8 at Falcon Lake. Like the guy, like also
Tri-County Bass Club.
Tri-County Bass Club. Didn't he also have a thing where he like has a rule where you can't pay to have people move stuff because there was like a barge in his way or something, and he was like, "Hey, I'll give you $100 if you move this damn barge so I can cast where I've been catching them." Yeah, he's got rules, but like, dude, like those are 3 monumental things in the short history of the sport that are all Paul Elias. He's still out there chunking. He had a big day too. He had like 20 something, I think, on day 2.
Oh, he did. He told me he could have felt like he could have won it because he lost so many on the first day.
He had 1 6-pounder on the first day too. Like he was on the freaking fish to win, and he was just out there cranking something on that shell. Had to have been.
He said I was on the fish to win it. He said,
oh, that would have been wild.
He said I could not land them.
Oh,
yeah. I ran into Tommy Martin. We was at the Bass Pro Shop there. They had their spring event there about a month ago or so. Stacy King was there, Tommy Martin, Larry Nixon. I posted some pictures of it, all those guys together again. I was like, and Tommy's still guiding. Like, I'm like, Tommy, I mean, come on.
He's the original Hemphill gang, along with Harold and those guys. Yeah, he's John Hall, Larry Nixon.
88 or 90 or something. I mean, he's like unbelievable and still after it. Like
Harold told me those guys would, back in the day, would guide, and then the group would all get back to the dock, and they would tie their boats up to the dock and then just have some beverages and sleep in the boats overnight and wake up when the next group came the next morning and then take them all out and guide again. And they would do that for like 3-4 days straight.
That is a believable story. I mean, those was a tough bunch. I mean, that is a tough bunch.
A lot of fish between that group.
Oh my gosh. Think of it. How many?
Yeah.
Especially as much as they go, not just the tournaments, guiding daily and fishing all the time. Yeah. A lot of history there, but it's good to see those guys when they get a chance to. And those are the ones I looked up to, I was trying to figure it out. And I was starting late, that's for sure.
I'm going to let you go, David Walker. I appreciate it. This was a very, very entertaining show. I know you update your Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that pretty regularly so people can stay in touch of all your, what I'm hoping is a lot of club tournament updates here coming soon.
You never know. I mean, we'll see, but I stay busy on all that. I got Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and I did some Twitter, but I don't
I never got into Twitter.
The
The only thing I use Twitter for is when a college football coach is on the hot seat.
Yeah. If
And
you
I'm
want
on
to
Twitter.
find out what's happening when the news is telling you they're still trying to figure it out, go to Twitter. They'll show you a video of it. Yeah, it's 100%. I feel the same. But yeah, the other social media stuff, I've been active in it since for a lot of years.
I can't get into TikTok. I feel like I'm too old for TikTok at 41.
Yeah, I'm same. I don't have a TikTok.
No.
Which
my wife made a BTL TikTok, so we have one. I just don't know what to put on there or how it works even.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm with you on that. I'll just stick with the Instagram, and it's probably my more favorited one actually. Facebook is connected and I do it, but I kind of like
bitching on Facebook. Way less bitching on Instagram than Facebook.
Oh, 100%, 100%. But Facebook is, I mean, like companies don't even have websites anymore. They have a Facebook page.
Yeah, I don't have a website for B.A.S.S. B.A.S.S. I mean, we still have the domain, but like I don't keep a website for BTL or anything. I'll probably do like a one page here just for posterity's sake. But
yeah, no, I'm the same. I had a website forever there, and I don't have it for anything now at this point. I don't need it, but it's Instagram and YouTube. I like YouTube because you can go long. You don't have to make it a little quick.
Yeah, no, you can go 2 hours and 17 minutes if you want, which is how long we've been going.
Oh, that's fun. Fun.
It was fun. Great catching up with you. I appreciate it, David.
Well, thanks for having me on, Matt. I appreciate it, and it was good seeing you again, and I enjoyed it. And well, don't be a stranger. If you come back around this way, come on by. You can hang out here.
Oh, don't tempt me with a good time. So I'm right in the middle of potentially putting up, I got a 50 by 50 slab out back at the house, but there's no metal building on it. Came when we got the house 5 years ago. And now I'm to the point where I'm like, I really want to put one up there. Does that change your life pretty big when you do what you do and you throw a building up? That's what I'm starting to realize.
Once you have that big metal building, like you don't know how you ever did without it.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
100%. You won't be like, I wish I'd never built that. No, you're not going to say
the other
that.
thing that since I've been kind of kicking the can down the road on it is the guys have always said, if you don't underbuild it, like build it as big as you can. You've never heard a guy say, I wish my shop was smaller.
No, you will not. I did that. I built one in Sevierville that was 36 by 60, but it was like shallower. And so this one here, I built bigger, and I put the 12-foot doors on both ends of it. So like literally you just drive through, close the doors, everything's hooked up.
It's big league.
Just do it right way the first time, and because otherwise you're going to be like, God, I wish I'd have done this.
I've already got the slab out there. It's like perfect. It's already built. I guess the people before had one on there, and then it burned down somehow in electrical fire. So I've just got a clean 50 by 50 slab.
There you go.
It's just sitting there. My buddy Juice, who does custom hair jigs. He used to bring his kid over all the time when he was learning to ride a bike, and he would just do circles on it back there because it was the only smooth. That's all it's been used for, David.
Right. Charlie, come over and ride a skateboard on it for you.
Yeah. No, he's still doing that. He still skateboards like every day too. I
know. That's crazy. But yeah, build your shop and do everything that you think you might want because you're gonna. And don't use that entire floor space for floor space. If you want to do like an outside, I did a little outside and overhang area, and I'm glad I did, because the last time I didn't. Like, you just open the door and went straight into the outside. And so pour that separate, and then make that your overhang on that. Don't use up any of your shop space for anything other than the shop.
Words of wisdom. Have a good. Well, it's afternoon now, so have a good afternoon, David.
All right, you too, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's good seeing you again, man.
All right, see ya.
All right, bye.
There you go, David Walker. That was a fun show. That was such a fun show. All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we have big news for tomorrow's show, I have made contact with Frank Scalish. I talked about it yesterday. He went out. I talked to him on the phone for like 45 minutes yesterday. Multiple 20-plus pound limits on a Carolina rig. You know my stance on a Carolina rig. I said I'd never talk about it on the show again. We've done several of the Day 4 shows with Frank Scalish. We are going to wipe the slate clean, reveal the secrets of the Carolina rig. It could be a 2-hour show tomorrow with Frank, but he is fired up. You know, he had a little melancholy with the winter, with how things sucked up in Ohio for the weather and stuff. Dude, he had a day of all days, a days for the ages, and he did it on the C rig. So I'm going to lift the C rig ban on BTL for one day, and we are going to dive deep into the mysteries of the C rig tomorrow. But we'll talk a little bit more about those details. This is BTL on a Wednesday. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from B.A.S.S. Feel the rush.
At Beatdown Outdoors, we know you depend on your gear to hold up in any condition. We built for that. We test for that. In fact, we pride ourselves in that. Because we know when the time comes to test your gear, you aren't going to take it easy, so we won't. We build premium, made-in-the-USA products that you can rely on in the moments when your equipment should be the last thing on your mind.
When I'm in a tournament, conditions are constantly changing and every second matters. With the Deep Dive app, I can instantly pull up all the current lake conditions all in one spot. So no more looking at weird government websites. In just one quick glance, I have water clarity, water level, wave forecast. It's all right there in the Deep Dive app. Download the Deep Dive app and get all the tools you need to put together an awesome tournament.
Before there were hashtags, there were handshakes and shared stories. They gave us confidence to make our first cast, and chase our dreams. They taught us to fish, and in the process, taught us about life. They taught us that success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about lifting others up. The future isn't just about selling tackle. It's about 3 simple words. Let's go fishing. Here's to the original influencers.
I fish in some of the worst elements across the country. Spring.
That's a giant, dude.
Summer.
Oh my gosh. Hi. Look at that thing.
Winter.
It's so cold.
And fall.
Got a big one.
That's awesome.
Being comfortable and staying dry is the only option.
AFCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, welcome back, Detail on a Wednesday. Do want to mention, we talked a lot about history. A lot of the guys we talked about today in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. The Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, if you go to their website, new merch for the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, and it's a cool new logo that they have. All the proceeds there go to support the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. It's only open for a week or two. I'll put the link in the description of the show afterwards, but if you want to head over to the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, support them, pick up some of the new Bass Fishing Hall of Fame merch. That's available. I mentioned tomorrow's show, new color announcement for the Frank Scalish Signature Series, and then we have a bonus show on Friday. It's a recorded show that I did with Brandon Cobb, the CO Double B. Really dive into shallow water fishing, some of his strategies, a lot of not so many like stories like we've had the last couple days back on the water fishing, but I love the shows where you're not exactly sure what you're going to get into, and that's kind of how I've always lined up BTL, is just have a conversation. And a lot of that stuff that I talked with David Walker about is if we were just sitting in a bar and chatting, and man, he freaking delivered. That was a top 5 show for the 2026 season, at least from my opinion. So, all right, that's all we got for today. Appreciate everybody sticking through the long show. Questions, comments, anything, Matt at BASSZone.com is my email. If you want to be up to date on what's happening on BTL on the YouTube, subscribe. We've gained almost 1,000 subscribers this year. So I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I went out and fished with Randy Blockett last month. And that went out to a lot of new viewers. But if you're new to BTL, you want to get when we go live, got some really cool stuff planned for the second half of the year where there might be some more spontaneous live things. But subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. Until then, I guess 21 hours from now, we'll be back with Frank Scalish for the Carolina Rig Show. And then a bonus show on Friday. So that's all we got for today. We'll talk to everybody. Hope everybody has a good second half of the week. See you.